Settling for average means choosing comfort over growth. It's the decision to stay safe, to do what's expected, and to never challenge your own potential. It feels comfortable, no pressure, no failure, no disappointment, but it also means no progress, no excitement, and no true success. Average is the silent killer of dreams because it convinces you that being good enough is acceptable, but good enough has never built empires, never changed the world, and never turned ordinary people into legends. Think about it. Every person who has made a lasting impact, from athletes to inventors, leaders to creators, had one thing in common. They refused to settle. They were not satisfied with meeting the minimum requirement. They didn't just do their job, they mastered their craft. They didn't just dream, they worked relentlessly until the dream became reality. Greatness, after all, isn't reserved for a chosen few. It's available to anyone willing to demand more of themselves than what's comfortable. When you settle for average, you choose to stop growing. You convince yourself that you've done enough, that this is as far as you can go. But the truth is, comfort zones are illusions. They keep you feeling safe while slowly suffocating your potential. Every time you choose to stay average, you give up the opportunity to discover what you're truly capable of. You might think you're protecting yourself from failure, but what you're really doing is protecting yourself from success. Greatness demands extra effort, the kind of effort most people aren't willing to give. It's waking up earlier, staying later, practicing longer, and learning more. It's choosing discipline when others choose distraction. It's doing the hard things even when no one is watching, because you know your future self will thank you for it. The difference between the average and the exceptional isn't talent, it's consistency and mindset. An average person says, "I've done enough." A great person says, "I can do more." That single thought separates mediocrity from mastery. Discipline is what keeps you moving when motivation fades. Anyone can feel inspired for a moment, but only the disciplined turn that inspiration into lasting results. The average person waits for the right time, but the great one creates it. The average person stops when they feel tired, but the great one stops only when the job is done. That's the power of refusing to settle. When you hold yourself to higher standards, you start to attract higher opportunities. The world doesn't remember people who played it safe. It remembers those who dared to do something different, something bold. It remembers the innovators, the fighters, the dreamers, those who saw what could be instead of what was. Average never inspires anyone, but excellence lights the path for generations. When you choose to go beyond expectations, you give others permission to believe they can too. You become proof that success isn't about luck. It's about effort, persistence, and resilience. But make no mistake, refusing to settle doesn't mean life will be easy. It means you'll face challenges, criticism, and even failure. Yet, every setback becomes a lesson. Every obstacle becomes a test of your commitment. Every failure becomes fuel for your next attempt. That's how greatness is born, not from perfection, but from the refusal to stay average in the face of adversity. Every day you have two choices: stay comfortable or grow stronger. You can keep doing what's familiar and predictable, or you can push yourself towards something extraordinary. You can accept the limits that others place on you, or you can decide that you are capable of far more than anyone believes. The choice to rise above average is made in those small, quiet moments when no one's watching. When you choose discipline over excuses, effort over ease, and vision over fear. When you stop settling, you begin to unlock the best version of yourself. You start to see progress where there once was stagnation. You begin to attract opportunities that once felt out of reach. You develop confidence that can't be shaken because you know you've earned every bit of it. You stop asking, "Can I do it?" and start declaring, "I will." Average might be easier, but it will never be fulfilling. Greatness requires sacrifice, but it gives your life meaning. The question isn't whether you can achieve more, it's whether you're willing to demand more of yourself. Because the moment you decide that average is no longer acceptable, you open the door to a life filled with purpose, passion, and power. Average lives in the comfort zone, that familiar space where everything feels safe, predictable, and easy. It's where you know what to expect, where you don't have to take risks, and where failure seems like a distant threat. But comfort, while tempting, is also dangerous. It quietly keeps you trapped in mediocrity. It convinces you that stability is success and that peace means progress. Yet the truth is, comfort is the enemy of growth. You cannot rise to greatness while staying in the same place. Every person who has ever achieved something extraordinary had to first step into discomfort, uncertainty, and even fear. Growth never happens where it's comfortable. Think about your own life. The moments that shaped you, strengthened you, or changed you, they didn't come from ease. When you push your limits, you step into the unknown, and that can be terrifying. But that's also where the magic happens, where new abilities are discovered, where hidden strength is revealed, and where confidence is born. The path to greatness is paved with discomfort. It's the willingness to fail, to learn, and to try again that separates those who merely exist from those who truly evolve. Every breakthrough in life, in business, in personal growth begins the moment you decide that easy isn't enough. When you stop doing what's comfortable and start doing what's necessary, you tap into a new level of potential. The truth is, you can't build strength without resistance. Muscles don't grow without pressure, and neither does your character. The challenges you face aren't there to stop you, they're there to prepare you. Every obstacle tests your commitment to your dream, and every time you push through, you become stronger, smarter, and more capable. The comfort zone whispers lies like, "You're fine where you are," or "You don't need to change." But deep down, you know that's not true. You feel that quiet restlessness inside, that voice that says, "You were made for more." That's your potential calling you out of average. It's telling you that safety will never lead to satisfaction. Growth is supposed to feel uncomfortable. It's supposed to challenge your patience, your persistence, and your limits, because only through that process can you discover what you're truly capable of. Look at the people you admire, the leaders, the innovators, the visionaries. None of them became great by staying comfortable. They took risks. They made sacrifices. They faced fear and failure but kept going anyway. They didn't wait until they were ready. They started when they were scared. And that's what made them different. They understood that growth and comfort cannot coexist. You must choose one. Either stay in your comfort zone and settle for average, or step into the unknown and become exceptional. When you challenge yourself to do more, you redefine your limits. What once seemed impossible becomes your new normal. The first time you try something new, it feels hard, but every time you push past fear, it becomes easier. That's the beauty of growth. It expands your capacity. You start realizing that your limits were only illusions created by comfort. The more you challenge yourself, the more your confidence grows. You stop fearing difficulty because you understand that struggle is part of success. Learning more, doing more, becoming more, that's the real purpose of life. It's about progress, not perfection. It's about waking up every day and asking, how can I improve today, even by 1A? That small step outside of comfort, repeated daily, creates massive transformation over time. It doesn't matter how slow your progress is, what matters is that you're moving, because motion creates momentum, and momentum destroys mediocrity. Every great achievement you see, every invention, discovery, or personal success was born from someone's willingness to leave the comfort zone. The plane was invented because someone dared to believe humans could fly. Businesses were built because someone believed in an idea others doubted. Champions were made because someone trained when no one was watching. These are the results of courage. The courage to face fear, to push boundaries, and to grow beyond what feels safe. So, when you find yourself hesitating to take a step forward because it feels uncomfortable, remember this. Discomfort is a sign that you're growing. It means you're on the edge of something greater. Don't run from it. Lean into it, because that's where your next level lies. Growth is not found in routine or repetition. It's found in risk and resilience. Every time you challenge yourself, you move further away from average and closer to excellence. Being extraordinary isn't about one big move. It's about small, consistent actions every single day. The truth is, greatness rarely arrives in a single moment of brilliance. It's the result of hundreds, even thousands of quiet, disciplined choices that no one sees. It's the decision to show up when you don't feel like it, to give your best when no one's watching, and to keep going when progress feels slow. These little choices repeated over time become habits, and those habits shape your destiny. Most people believe success comes from one grand action, a breakthrough, a lucky chance, a big opportunity, but the reality is those moments are built on the foundation of consistent effort. Every achievement, every victory, every story of transformation comes from someone who decided to stay committed long after the excitement faded. Extraordinary people don't rely on motivation, they rely on discipline. They understand that what you do daily matters far more than what you do occasionally. In every area of life, work, fitness, learning, or relationships, consistency is the invisible force that drives excellence. You don't build a strong body with one workout, nor a sharp mind with one book. You build them through repetition, through daily commitment, through showing up again and again. The same is true for your goals and dreams. Every day is an opportunity to take one more step forward, to improve just a little, to do one thing better than yesterday. Those small improvements might not seem like much at first, but over time they compound into something extraordinary. Think of excellence like a staircase. Each step represents a single action, a single effort, a single decision to do what's right instead of what's easy. Most people stop halfway because they expect instant results. They get discouraged when their effort doesn't immediately pay off. But those who reach the top understand that progress is slow and steady. They keep climbing, one small step at a time, knowing that persistence will eventually separate them from everyone else. The difference between good and great isn't talent. It's the standard you hold yourself to every day. A good person does what's required. A great person does more than expected. A good student studies enough to pass. A great student learns enough to master. A good worker finishes the task. A great one improves it. The gap between good and great isn't in ability, it's in mindset. It's the daily decision to raise your standards, to not settle for average results, and to expect more from yourself than others do. Excellence is a habit built on repetition and responsibility. It's about doing your best work even when it feels mundane. It's about paying attention to the small details because they eventually shape the big picture. Extraordinary people understand that what they do every day defines who they become. You can't cheat the process, you can only commit to it. Each day you show up, you're either building your dream or delaying it. The choice is always yours. There will be days when consistency feels exhausting, days when progress feels invisible, when your energy is low, and when quitting seems easier. But those are the days that matter most. Those are the moments that test your character, because anyone can be consistent when things are easy. But true greatness is forged in persistence during the hard times. It's what you do when no one claps for you, when the results aren't visible yet, when your effort feels unnoticed. That's where champions are made. Small actions also teach discipline. Every time you follow through with a commitment, no matter how small, you strengthen your self-trust. You prove to yourself that you're capable, reliable, and in control. Over time, these small victories build massive confidence. You stop needing external motivation because your own actions become proof of your strength. The person who does the little things well is the same person who can handle the big things with excellence. Excellence is also about intention. It's not just what you do, it's how you do it. The energy, the care, the focus you bring to each task determines its quality. Whether it's writing an email, training at the gym, or spending time with someone you love, your presence and effort make all the difference. When you treat every small act like it matters, your life begins to reflect that level of care. The extraordinary don't wait for big moments to give their best. They make every moment matter. Consistency may seem simple, but it's not easy. It requires patience, focus, and faith in the process. It means showing up long before the results arrive. It means trusting that your daily habits are leading somewhere even when you can't see it yet. But that's the secret. Success isn't sudden, it's accumulated. It's built day by day, hour by hour, action by action. So when you look at people who seem to live extraordinary lives, remember, it wasn't one big leap that got them there. It was the accumulation of countless small steps taken with purpose and persistence. They weren't lucky, they were consistent. They didn't wait for motivation, they built discipline. They didn't lower their standards to fit their circumstances, they raised their actions to match their vision. You become like the people you spend time with. It's a simple truth, but one that shapes every part of your life, your mindset, your energy, your habits, and your destiny. The people you surround yourself with are like mirrors, reflecting back your potential or your limitations. If you spend your time with average thinkers, people who fear change, avoid challenges, and make excuses, you'll slowly start adopting their patterns. But if you surround yourself with dreamers, doers, and leaders, those who push boundaries, set goals, and take action, you'll naturally rise to their level. The company you keep determines the standards you accept. Spend enough time with those who settle for less, and soon settling will feel normal. But spend time with those who chase excellence, and suddenly mediocrity becomes uncomfortable. Energy is contagious. Attitudes are contagious. Beliefs are contagious. If you're not intentional about who you allow into your environment, you'll unconsciously absorb the limitations of others. That's why successful people are so careful about who they associate with. They understand that proximity is power. Look closely at your closest circle. Are they inspiring you or draining you? Do they challenge you to grow or comfort you into staying the same? The truth is, your environment can either propel you forward or pull you back. You can't expect to live a high-achieving life surrounded by people who think small. You can't build a vision in a room full of doubters. The people you allow close to you either water your potential or poison it. And sometimes, the difference between success and stagnation is simply the company you keep. When you spend time with people who dream big, it shifts your perspective. Suddenly, what once seemed impossible starts to feel achievable. Their ambition sparks yours. Their confidence fuels your courage. Their commitment to excellence sets a new standard for your own behavior. You start to see that greatness isn't a matter of luck. It's a mindset, a lifestyle, a choice. And when you surround yourself with people who live that way, you start to adopt those same habits naturally. You might not even notice it at first, the subtle influence of your circle. You begin thinking more boldly, speaking more confidently, and believing more deeply in your own potential. That's the power of environment. It molds you without you realizing it. If you want to elevate your life, the fastest way is to elevate your circle. Spend time with people who are smarter than you, more driven than you, more disciplined than you. It's not about comparison, it's about inspiration. Being around greatness doesn't make you small, it stretches you to grow. But choosing the right people isn't always easy. Sometimes it means walking away from those who no longer align with your goals. It means letting go of friendships built on comfort instead of growth. It means saying no to negativity, gossip, and laziness, even when it's familiar. Growth often requires separation. You can't fly if you keep holding hands with those who refuse to leave the ground. That doesn't mean you think you're better than others. It means you're serious about your potential. When you begin surrounding yourself with high-energy, goal-oriented people, you'll notice your life changing in subtle but powerful ways. You'll start to set bigger goals because everyone around you does. You'll stop making excuses because no one in your circle accepts them. You'll become more focused because the people near you value time and progress. That's the beauty of alignment. When your environment supports your ambition, success becomes a natural byproduct. Leaders understand this truth deeply. That's why they seek mentors, coaches, and communities that challenge them. They know that to grow, they must stay in rooms where they're not the smartest person. Every conversation, every collaboration, every shared moment with people of higher standards pushes them to evolve. If you want to rise, you must first place yourself among those who are already climbing. Their example becomes your motivation, their discipline becomes your model, their mindset becomes your compass. But surrounding yourself with the right people isn't just about seeking those ahead of you, it's also about lifting others as you grow. Greatness isn't selfish, it's contagious. When you start to change your circle, you don't just benefit, you also inspire others to rise. Your consistency encourages them. Your courage shows them what's possible. You become a source of elevation in someone else's life. That's how movements start, with one person deciding that average is no longer acceptable. So take a close look at your environment. Ask yourself, who am I becoming because of the people I'm around? If the answer doesn't excite you, it's time to make changes. Seek out those who challenge you, who speak life into your goals, who remind you of your worth and hold you accountable to your potential. These are the people who will help you break through your limits. Remember, your future is built in the company you keep. Surround yourself with the right energy, and you'll grow beyond what you thought possible. Surround yourself with the wrong energy, and you'll shrink into someone you're not meant to be. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, so choose them wisely. Because when you align yourself with people who dream bigger, work harder, and expect more, you can't help but become extraordinary yourself. True champions don't need applause to do their best. They hold themselves to a higher standard even when no one's watching. That's the mark of real excellence. Doing the right thing, the hard thing, the disciplined thing, not because someone is keeping score, but because your own integrity demands it. The world is full of people who perform only when they're being observed, who give their best only when recognition is guaranteed. But those who rise to greatness understand that real success begins in silence, in the unseen hours when no one is clapping and no one is watching. Champions build their reputation long before the spotlight ever finds them. They practice when the stands are empty. They study when the room is quiet. They grind when no one is cheering them on. Why? Because they're driven by something deeper than approval. They're driven by purpose. They don't need validation to act. Their motivation comes from within. It's not about being noticed, it's about being excellent. That's what separates those who talk about success from those who live it. When you raise your standards for yourself, you stop competing with others and start competing with your potential. You realize that your only real opponent is the person you were yesterday. True growth doesn't come from comparing your progress to others. It comes from holding yourself accountable to the level of greatness you're capable of. Champions understand this. They wake up each day asking, how can I be better today than I was yesterday? That single question, repeated daily, transforms average effort into mastery. Holding yourself to a higher standard also means refusing to settle for shortcuts. In a world obsessed with instant gratification, champions understand that long-term success requires patience, discipline, and consistency. They don't chase quick wins, they build solid foundations. They know that cutting corners might bring temporary rewards but never lasting fulfillment. Real excellence is forged in the fire of repetition, precision, and persistence. Doing your best when no one is watching develops something far more valuable than recognition. It builds character, it strengthens your integrity, and shapes your identity. When you make excellence a personal habit, it becomes who you are, not something you perform. You start showing up differently, with confidence, pride, and self-respect. You no longer rely on praise to validate your effort because your satisfaction comes from knowing you gave your all. That's real freedom, to act from conviction, not from approval. The most powerful form of motivation is self-respect. When you consistently meet your own standards, you build trust with yourself. You stop breaking promises to your goals. You stop needing others to push you because your own drive becomes enough. Every time you follow through, whether it's waking up early, finishing a task, or staying disciplined, you send a message to your mind, I can rely on me. And that internal trust is the foundation of confidence. You no longer wonder if you're capable. You know you are, because you've proven it to yourself day after day. Champions also understand that accountability starts from within. They don't wait for someone else to set expectations or create pressure. They create it themselves. They set high goals and refuse to lower them just because the process gets uncomfortable. They understand that greatness requires sacrifice, and they're willing to pay the price even when no one acknowledges it. That's why their results speak louder than their words. They don't need to tell people how hard they work. Their success shows it. When you operate from this mindset, your results naturally begin to rise. Excellence attracts opportunity. When you hold yourself to a higher standard, people notice, even if you're not seeking attention. Your reliability, your consistency, and your discipline become your reputation. Doors open because others trust your commitment. Confidence grows because you trust yourself. The higher your standards, the higher your trajectory. It's that simple. Think of the athletes who train in the dark, the entrepreneurs who work while others rest, the artists who practice long after everyone else stops. They're not doing it for applause. They're doing it because they have a vision of what they could become. They understand that greatness isn't built in moments of recognition, it's built in moments of solitude. Every quiet act of discipline compounds into something magnificent. The world may not see the hours you put in, but it will always see the results. There's something powerful about the person who strives for excellence privately. It shows maturity, humility, and strength of character. It means you no longer need validation to move forward. You're no longer controlled by external praise or criticism. Your direction comes from within. That's what makes champions unstoppable. They're self-driven, not crowd-driven. Their standards don't change based on who's watching. They remain constant because they're rooted in purpose. When you raise your expectations of yourself, you elevate every part of your life. Your results improve because your effort improves. Your confidence grows because you trust your discipline. Your opportunities expand because your performance becomes undeniable. The world tends to reward those who don't wait for recognition before they act. You don't attract success by chasing it. You attract it by becoming someone worthy of it. And that starts with what you do in private. The quiet commitment to excellence that no one else may ever see. Because in the end, the applause will fade, the recognition will come and go, but your standards, the ones you set for yourself, will always determine how far you rise. The person who holds themselves to greatness when no one's watching doesn't just achieve success, they become success itself. Never settling for average is more than a mindset. It's a commitment to becoming the best version of yourself. It's a declaration that mediocrity will never define your journey. Throughout life, you will face choices, comfort or growth, ease or effort, excuses or excellence. The path you choose will determine who you become. Greatness isn't found in those who do just enough to get by. It's found in those who demand more of themselves, even when no one else does. Every day, life gives you an opportunity to decide whether you'll rise or remain. The average person wakes up and accepts the day as it comes, but the extraordinary person creates their day with purpose. They don't wait for motivation, they act with discipline. They don't seek applause, they seek progress. They don't measure themselves by other standards, they set their own, higher, stronger, and sharper. That is what it means to live beyond average, to never be satisfied with good enough when greatness is possible. Growth lives outside the comfort zone. Average feels safe, predictable, and easy, but nothing extraordinary ever comes from ease. When you challenge yourself to go further, learn more, and push beyond fear, you enter the zone where transformation happens. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Every small, uncomfortable step forward builds resilience, strength, and confidence. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you stretch your limits and expand what's possible for you. Excellence isn't born from one grand act. It's built from small, consistent actions repeated daily. The people who achieve greatness aren't those who had it easy, they're those who refused to give up. They showed up when it was hard, they practiced when no one cared, and they gave their best when results weren't visible. That's the secret. Greatness hides in the small things. Your habits, your focus, your effort. These are the invisible forces that separate ordinary from extraordinary. Your environment also shapes who you become. Surround yourself with average thinkers, and you'll find yourself shrinking to fit their comfort. But surround yourself with dreamers, leaders, and achievers, and you'll feel pulled to rise higher. Energy is contagious, so protect yours fiercely. Spend time with people who talk about ideas, who challenge your thinking, who see potential in you that you might not even see in yourself. The company you keep can either feed your ambition or starve it. Choose wisely because your circle is your mirror, it reflects your future. And above all, never depend on recognition to validate your worth. True champions don't wait for an audience to give their best. They give their best because it's who they are. They hold themselves to high standards even when no one's watching. That's integrity, that's character. When you raise your expectations of yourself, your results rise too. Confidence comes from discipline. Opportunities come from consistency. Respect comes from effort. When you do the right thing quietly, the rewards will shout for you later. The world doesn't need more average people doing average things. It needs individuals who dare to stand out, who refuse to settle, who lead by example. It needs people who wake up each day determined to improve, to contribute, to make a difference. Being exceptional isn't about ego, it's about impact. It's about leaving something better than you found it. Your work, your relationships, your world. When you choose excellence, you give others permission to do the same. Your example becomes someone else's inspiration. So never stop raising your standards. Never stop demanding more from yourself. When life gets hard, and it will, remember that average quits, but greatness endures. When you feel tired, remember that persistence builds strength. When you doubt yourself, remember that your potential is far greater than your fear. You were not created to blend in. You were made to stand out. Never settle for average in your goals, your relationships, or your character. Push yourself to do more, to grow more, to become more. Because the moment you decide that enough is not enough, your life changes forever. Excellence is not a destination. It's a lifestyle. It's a daily decision to rise above excuses, distractions, and fear. The world rewards the uncommon, so be uncommon. Be relentless in your pursuit of growth. Be proud of the effort no one sees. Be the person who gives 100 tete even when 50 ayo would be acceptable. Because that's where greatness lives. In the extra mile, in the unseen effort, in the refusal to settle. And one day when your hard work begins to shine, the world will see what you've always known, that you were never meant to be average, you were meant to be extraordinary.